All right, Firewatch, now that we've finished with it.
So this is the debrief.
Now, I've looked up a little bit of some of the other content, but I haven't looked up, anything that you can do that might change the story or anything. I've just looked up, extra stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly because there's a whole lot of stuff about, the secret ending. And the secret ending is just you can refuse to get on the helicopter.
And die in thoroughfare.
Yeah, I can't remember what happens.
You become a weird hermit like Ned? Maybe, I don't know.
No, I'd have to look it up. But no, that's... If you...
Do you want me to look it up, or do you want to?
Yeah, feel free.
Mom is...
Feel free to look it up. Oh, Mom's already looking it up.
Yeah. That's why I said, do you want to look it up, or do you want me to?
Oh. To trigger the secret ending, all you have to do is refuse to get on the helicopter. You just stand there, and I think you have to stand there for 10 minutes. So, just leave the game running and wander off.
Set a timer. Ooh, free crystal. I'm always down with free crystal.
Did you find it?
Okay.
What's wrong? Did either of you find it yet?
I was trusting Mom to look it up. I can start looking it up.
Yeah, I think Mom's having trouble with it.
Yeah, everyone wants to show me video. I don't want to see video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel. Firewatch.
Oh, I think you'd be able. Now, my point being that it's not a secret ending, per se. I guess it's kind of an Easter egg, maybe. I know that a lot of things like the raccoon that we found eating the granola bar, you can find him in two different places, and if you find him in one place, then you won't see him in the other. Where you find the turtle that you get to name, you can find him in one place or another place, and if you find him in one, you won't find him in the other. So, there's probably I'm guessing there's probably 10 of those little blocked cutoff areas, but only in any given game, only 5 will do anything.
Okay. Literally, if you wait 2 minutes after the chopper arrives and you don't climb in,
yeah,
the chopper flies off, and that's the end of the game.
And then the game ends.
Yeah. So maybe you committed suicide. Maybe you went to go live a gay lifestyle with Ned in the forest. I don't know.
Yeah. They don't tell you anything different, but the helicopter leaves and the game ends.
Uh-huh.
And you chose to stay there, and maybe another helicopter comes, or maybe it doesn't. But, it's supposed to be about what choice you made.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you wanted to live like Ned, like you said.
Maybe you don't have anything to go back to.
Which is...
Because that was, by God, one of the most depressing games I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and that was why the whole Goodwin story was there, and why that ended up being, the main thrust of the story that you're left with at the end is, they come out and explicitly tell you, Ned explicitly tells you, he didn't feel like he had a reason to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you can put an alternative spin on it and say, no, Ned was afraid of getting in trouble. But, you can make that argument. We don't know. The only witness we have for what happened to Ned and Brian is Ned's account and Delilah's observances from afar. And we're given plenty of evidence that Delilah's not necessarily a reliable witness. And then, of course, Ned might be implicated for manslaughter at least. And of course, he's been dealing with this guilt for 3 years. What he's telling us happened may not even remotely be the truth, but he might certainly believe it at this point.
Well, what I do know is that Brian's head was jelly under that rock.
Yeah.
I don't see how that could have happened in a murder scenario.
No, I suspect that Ned was, what he said happened is what actually happened. They were climbing in that cave, and he was trying to teach Brian how to rappel, and Brian didn't get his python firmly lodged in a crack, and it came loose as he was climbing down that shaft, and as he fell, some rocks were knocked loose, fell down behind him, and it was enough rocks, and they were big enough that, he hit the bottom, and rocks fell down on top of him and killed him. And based on what we can tell about Brian and what Delilah witnessed, I mean, you could make an argument that Ned got his son killed.
Yeah.
You could, yes.
It clearly wasn't his intention to kill his son.
No.
But he was trying to get his son to be a man like him and not be interested in D&D. It's why one of the few things that they did together was the electronics, because that was the one interest that they both shared that Ned gave credence to.
I still miss mayhem.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I bet that's one of those things that if you chose mayhem, maybe mayhem kills one of the muggers, and you have to, and so then mayhem gets put down after he kills the mugger, and so that ends up being a triggering point for everything that follows after that. As opposed to in the mugging, if you choose Bucket, then Bucket gets kicked, and Julia is severely traumatized by the event. And that kind of triggers the downward fall narratively. Actually, I'm guessing I haven't played through it a second time making different choices. I will someday, but I haven't yet.
First, I need to go drink some Drano.
That really bothered you, didn't it?
That whole game was genuinely depressing. I mean, we start out with this great woman, and we're living life, and then everything goes to hell.
Yeah.
Basically.
And so, we run away from it.
Yeah.
And go to the National Forest to get away from it. And we meet another great woman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a real potential for love there.
Yeah.
And everything goes to hell.
Yep.
I mean, basically, it's the story of...
Some people's lives are misery.
Yeah. Why Henry's life just sucks.
Yeah. And you have the option to end the game with, my life just sucks and I'm going to run away some more. I admire the game for leaving the story open enough that you can put your own interpretations, your own endings on almost everything. You can end that game with Henry and Delilah don't actually have any kind of basis for a romantic relationship, but maybe they're friends. Or you can end the game with, probably them being hot for each other, but, they've got to get their own lives. They've got to tie up some loose ends in their own lives first. You've actually got a couple of levels in between that you can go with, and they did it purely by leaving the story open just enough while still telling what?
He's just so precious.
Oh. While still telling the story that they wanted to tell. And of course you go into it, and one of the things that you don't expect is that it turns into a mystery game fairly early on.
Yeah.
You're expecting that, this is just going to be a game where you're given a whole lot of menial tasks and go from point A to point B while you talk about your relationship issues with somebody else. And it's kind of, you're kind of thinking it's neat that they're kind of doing this and letting you work through this story that way, and then they stick a mystery on top of it. And then it becomes the mystery that you didn't even expect towards the end of it. What seemed to be just a throwaway comment early on, although I think, Hun, you said that you figured out a little bit earlier that the good ones must be more significant to the story.
Yeah. I mean, she talked about them too much for them to not matter.
Yeah, and I guess that's fair because, you've also got that, I can't remember what his last name was, but the Mitch guy who was missing there from a long time back. I think I may have overwritten it, or maybe we were talking through it during. But it's in it. You can ask her about it, but he never comes up again. He's just some guy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the good ones, she mentions them, ends up mentioning them, I guess, probably 3 times, maybe 4. I didn't think it was quite that many, but it's still more than anything else. I mean, you can ask her about the notes between Dave and Ron, and she doesn't have anything to add beyond her initial comments on it. Although if you read all of the notes in order, you get a little bit better feel for the Dave and Ron story. Matter of fact, that's something you can look up and we can talk about if you want, because, I mean, it's right there to read. And, of course, you've got the massive red herring with the teenage girls.
Yes, that was just awful of them.
Yeah, but well done, too. Because you're playing the game, and despite the little conversation with Julia that was actually all in your imagination, or sort of, you're reasonably certain that that Henry didn't kill these girls, and the game just decided not to show it to you. The game doesn't really have a vibe that they're intentionally setting you up to be an incredibly unreliable narrator. I mean, they addressed the imaginary call with Julia immediately.
Yeah.
So, you're pretty sure you didn't do it. And to me, I was left with the most obvious conclusion that it was, a bear did it. But then we've got, this unknown person wandering around, and that's when I start thinking, yeah, maybe there's a serial killer on the loose in the forest.
Yeah.
And that was what I thought I was dealing with for, 5 or 6 game sessions, is there's a serial killer around here somewhere.
Right.
Okay, did either of you look up the Dave and Ron notes?
All in order.
All in order. Okay. 6/16/86. Dave, guess who's going out with Debbie next week? No, not that shithill Steve. It's your man Ron. I went up to check on the new guy at Two Forks and heard him talking to himself. And reminder, this is when Ned and Brian were
Yeah,
at
when
Two
the good
Forks.
ones were.
Yeah.
So hearing Ned talking to himself was hearing Ned talking to Brian.
Right.
Yeah. More than usual for a lookout.
More than usual for lookouts. So I figured I'd stay away. Remember when you saw Chimney Rock having himself in that hammock? I'm starting to think the Forest Service only picks the deranged and perverted. Except for us, of course. We're the creme de la creme. Let's toast to Deb at the spot. Ron. Okay, that was 6/16. 7/7/86, so 3 weeks later. Ron, hey man, guy couldn't take it, so I locked up his lookout and put some stuff in the box. Found one of those bars you liked, hiking into the park, but let's get fucked when I'm back. Dave.
Huh.
7/30/86. So this is 2 weeks later. Dave, heyo, I got your note about needing, I think that's what it says, needing to talk. And sorry I didn't track you down. Been looking for you all day. Figured you'd be out near the canyon helping the grad students, but I guess not. I don't even know how I could really help anyway. We're co-workers, you know, amigos professionales. If you need someone to throw back a case with and go time traveling, Ron's your guy, but I'm not great with the life stuff. You get it. Later on, Ron.
No one in this park is great at the life stuff. You're here because you're not great at the life stuff.
8/29/86, a month later. Ron, got some bad news back home, so hopefully they'll let me out of here for a while. Who's to say, though, budgets being what they are. Did you get my note about what went down in Wapiti? Sheriff isn't too pleased with me, but I don't know. I probably overdid it. Wish you would have been there. I guess you must have got hung up. Dave. P.S. Amigos is Spanish and Professionalis is Italian. 8/30/86. So the next day. Dave. Heyo. Debbie told me about what happened at Cassie's, and I just wanted to say I'm real sorry. That's just fucked totally. I wish I would have been there. I would have kicked the living shit out of every one of those dumb hicks. Debbie was trying to explain why they'd kick your ass so good, and I just don't get it. Fucked. Anyway, man, I don't really know how to get hold of you. I sent a note up to the hospital in Billings, but I'm not even sure you're still there. Debbie and I are talking about heading up to Alaska in the spring, so I'm not sure I'll be out here again. So yeah, maybe you'll get this note in May. Nobody uses these things anymore. Also, dude, found this old song in a shitter near Hawk's Rest. Appropriate place for it, really. And thought I'd give it the Ron treatment for you. Dig it. Get better, amigo. Find me if you're ever in Sitka. Later on, Ron. And then the one with no date. Ron, really wish the powers that be could issue us radios that didn't suck ass. Most of the time I'd prefer to keep things pen to paper, but every once in a while it'd be nice to get a hold of you right away. My sister keeps leaving me messages at the main office, but I don't think she gets that I took the job so I wouldn't have to deal with her or Mom. I've been sitting at the spot for a while now thinking about what to say to her, but I'm a quarter way through this bottle of Fifes instead. Miss you, Dave.
I think Dave
Is gay?
Is gay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the implication
Yeah.
from other threads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dave
yeah.
has more than platonic feelings for Ron.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
But
Maybe they're
yeah,
just
that's
friends.
everything kind of in context is, would make sense. But again, it's just ambiguous enough that, that doesn't have to be it.
No, he could just be socially awkward.
Yeah.
Well, and they've got that thing about, something that happened somewhere where Dave got beat up
Mm-hmm.
By a bunch of hicks.
by a bunch of hicks, and, Debbie is trying to explain it to Ron, and Ron just doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, keep in mind this is the mid-'80s.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been very commonplace for someone to be extremely circumspect when trying to explain to someone, hey, dude, did you not know your friend is gay? What do you mean? What does that mean?
He swings the other way.
He's playing for the other team, dude.
Anyway, anybody have anything else they want to talk about on it?
I think Delilah goes on to become a late night radio call-in DJ.
Well, she's got a great voice.
Okay, apparently I'm the only one who's aware of the Delilah show.
Oh.
There's actually a late night radio call-in DJ.
Yes, I know the Delilah show. I'd completely forgotten about it. And Delilah sounds like Delilah.
Uh-huh.
Sounds a lot like Delilah, in fact.
Uh-huh.
Well, I have no idea what y'all are talking about, so I can't...
There's a late night call-in show. It's syndicated.
Yeah.
Just about any station can carry it if they pay for it.
Yeah. And it's like through the ungodly hours of night.
It's like 11 to 3 or
Yes.
10 to 2, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's called the Delilah Show.
Mm-hmm.
Delilah! Anyway, you can call in and talk to Delilah in the dead of the night, and she'll take your requests and dedications and keep you company.
And the way they generally like to run the show is, somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm hanging out with all of my best buds, Delilah, and our favorite song right now is Justin Bieber's whatever. Would you play that for us? It doesn't have to be Bieber. It could be hard rock, although she usually doesn't do hard rock.
Oh,
She usually stays with solidly pop and mid-range classics, like 70s and 80s and 90s at this point. Or, someone calls in and says, hey, would you play such and such for my lovely husband who's, listening to your show while he works the late night shift at the Pizza Hut or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of thing. Very friendly, very chummy. It's not a complaint line or a crying line.
Yeah, no, it's just
It's
like
very upbeat.
we're all friends here in the dead of night.
And we're celebrating friendship and love with a whole lot of pop songs.
Yeah, in the dead of night.
But yeah, and Delilah in the game sounds like Delilah, the radio host.
Uh-huh. It's a little odd.
Maybe they did it on purpose.
And you know, Delilah in the game is chummier than most people, I think, normally would be right off the bat with the new guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like a level of intimacy that seems inappropriate to the age of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is, the implication is Delilah is, at most, she might be 5 years younger than Henry. Or she could be about the same age. She could be a little older. But I think, she apparently had a serious long-term relationship that, she had the ability to, go along with, I can't remember what his name was, and,
or something.
start a new life then, but she chose to back away, and that ended the relationship. Mm-hmm. And that was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I think you're looking at the youngest, she's like 35, and Henry at this point is like 45.
Yeah, I think Delilah's early to mid 40s, like Henry.
Yeah, I think it's probably more likely that she's early 40s. Probably a little bit younger than Henry. That seems to work out the best. And I think most likely what happened is she knew when the guy was supposed to get there. She had the day he was supposed to start. And she's probably sitting there watching through her binoculars the whole time. And she can see him just good enough. As you saw in the note, and she said on the radio, she can see that this is a white male approximately her age.
Wearing shorts.
Yeah, wearing shorts.
And with a very bright backpack.
And he's out here doing a job that normally a married man wouldn't do. And of course, you also find out, in the game, she started out talking to Ned quite a bit. Until she realized that he was completely not her type at all and was, in her way of thinking, a complete asshole. And then she really didn't want to have anything to do with the Goodwins anymore, except that,
Brian existed. And
yeah,
he was very awesome.
She and Brian had some things in common, and she ended up talking with Brian.
Ned kind of was an asshole.
Yeah. So, I get the feelings, I don't know what she does when she's not doing this. The game never tells us, just like they never tell us what Henry does. But I think the implication is supposed to be she is very interested whenever a single white male or any male single shows up that's within her dating range. So I think she was probably really excited when she saw Henry. He's about her age. He's a single male. He's out here doing a job that implies no family.
Mom, why do you put your socks back there? No.
And now they're lost forever. Way to go.
Congrats. You also woke Charlie up, so...
Oh, we need to remember to dig the socks out of the kitty cat toy drawer. So that they can go in the laundry and be washed. Okay, anyway, no. Moving on. Anybody have anything else to talk about?
Nope, and I think Mom's getting a bit restless.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, gonna turn that off. That is Firewatch finished.